I swear, every time I listen to you, I learn something new.
Great.
So I want to talk about, a couple things we'll go through, but we all deal with trauma. You mentioned COVID, you mentioned different things, even at birth. I personally have had interesting trauma in my life, and it's different patterns in my life. There was good that came from it. There was bad that came from it. Can you share, because I know we all have our own kind of trauma, can you share how to pinpoint things that affect how we perform? How do we pinpoint those things that happen to us, maybe in adolescence? And then how do we overcome that trauma and get rid of the bad stuff and keep the good stuff that comes from it?
Great questions. So the pinpointing it is not as important as the identifying the feeling that you're presently having. So if you're in a place, if you're in a stuck place, if you're in a place of a lot of stress, you have to slow down. You have to find a quiet place. You have to breathe into your body. You close your eyes, you breathe into your body. You focus on that feeling that you're currently having. And you ask yourself, what is this about? So you slow down, you breathe into your body, you focus on that current feeling you're having. And you ask yourself, what is this really about? Now, if you're really quiet and you're really focused, what will happen is your body will release an energy which has a feeling and a thought and an emotion attached to it. That oftentimes will take you to a place that is different than where you are right now. So your body holds all the memories. You just have to slow down enough to ask it, because I love for people when they're struggling, I like to say, when have you felt this before? When have you felt this way before? And then if you slow down and you listen, and when I say slow down, I'm talking about slowing down your thinking, because your thinking is oftentimes your worst enemy. We think way too much. We talk way too much. Breathe. Slow down your thinking. Focus on your body. Ask yourself, when have I felt this way before? And a lot of times that will take you right to an old memory. And once you've identified that old memory, see, now you're no longer in the present, now you're in the past. Once you've identified that old memory, breathe into it. Cry it out. Yell it out. Grind it out. Honor it. Pay attention to it. Listen to it. Whatever feeling you had that memory triggers, honor that feeling. See, we have so much shame attached. We have shame attached to our feelings, and we have fear attached to our feelings. We don't want to cry about it. We don't want to talk about it because we're ashamed of it. And shame is a very big feeling experience. And then we're afraid of it. No one likes to be sad. We'll be angry, but underneath all anger is sadness. And underneath sadness is fear. There are only two primary emotions, love and fear. So you're never actually getting rid of it. This is important. You're never getting rid of any trauma, because trauma is not a bad thing. Trauma is actually a good thing. It's just disguised in all of these painful feelings. But whatever traumas you've had in your life have just expanded you. They've expanded you to be able to be and show up different than anyone else can be and show up, because you've just went through something super painful, super challenging, super stressful. And so it has expanded you. And when it's expanded you, you're able to make more room for other people, for other things. And so you don't get rid of it, you just learn to pay attention to it. I've been in places where I've been stressed and balled up like a fetus on the ground, crying and screaming. I knew I was a baby. I knew I was a baby. I knew I had trauma as a baby. And so I just allowed myself to honor that baby. And then I moved forward.
So I'm going to share an example how I had to overcome a trauma. I mean, I still deal with it, and then I'd love to hear directly from you. You've heard my story. As a kid, I grew up with a speech impediment, and so I had a lisp, and so I struggled with speaking, and I got bullied. There's very specific names of people that would bully me, mock me, and do sounds that I couldn't do. And that bothered me so much. So what did I do? I practiced in front of the mirror and eventually overcame that speech impediment. But what was happening to me is I felt like I wasn't worthy. I felt like I wasn't enough. I couldn't do other things people could do. So in my life, through sports, I excelled in football, tried to be the best. In business, always trying to be the best. But I was ultimately trying to be seen. Always trying to be seen. And the problem was, after winning something, achieving something, it wasn't enough. I was already thinking about the next thing, the next milestone, and not appreciating this, but also shutting out people that I loved. And so I went through a lot of hard work to get better, but I still acknowledge it. I still feel like I want to be seen. But it's a very specific example of there's good and bad that came from it. Yes, achieve, but not constantly try to shut people out because I'm just trying to be seen. So that's one example. Maybe you have some advice for me, but I'd love to hear one specific example that you've had to overcome, an example like I just shared with you.
What better way to be seen than to create your own conference, right?
See?
Rise and record.
Very true.
My core issue, like one of my fundamental core challenges in my life has been a fear of rejection and abandonment. I was adopted as an infant. And it's just something, as an adopted child, it's something that you are birthed with. It's like, it's your birthright. And so my entire life, there have been so many invitations and opportunities to feel rejected or to feel abandoned. And before I became conscious, I would feel really aggressive when I would feel any perceived rejection. I remember my first years as a public speaker, I would be giving a lecture and someone in my audience would ask a question that I would perceive as threatening, and I remember I can still see myself the day I became conscious of it. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I was that intense. And I realized in that moment, it's because I was scared. I was scared. And then when I could stop and I could breathe, I could relax. And after that, I became less and less threatened by anyone that had questions, to the point that I could invite it and acknowledge it and accept it and desire it. It's still there. It shows up every single day. Every single day, but now I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it. And that's really the challenge with trauma, is just learn to be conscious of it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's everything to be proud of. Speak your truth. Share your story, because you have suffered through it and you've come out on the other side of it. Use it to change someone else's life.
If on that point, all the people in the room here, some of the people may be thinking, like, my story doesn't matter. I don't even know where to begin for sharing my story. Any just a couple hacks or tips that can help them open up about their story and share it?
Well, the first is to realize it does matter. It does matter. It's so important, because your story is an anchor place for other people. They can hear your story and they can emotionally hook into that. And so the more you share, the more you're willing to share who you are. And let me tell you, I've been on stages all around the world, and I've shared my story from my birth history, which I know about, my adoption, my life growing up, and I share it openly and candidly. And there are many times to this day, my mom is like, "Bryan, did you have to say that? Did you have to share that? Do you have to talk about that?" Yes, I do, because it's my story. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not shaming anyone. It's my story. And people around the world know my story. Let them know your story. What's your story of entrepreneurship? How'd you start your business? How did you get to the place of starting your business? Someone wants to hear that, and it personalizes you. It makes you more than just a business. It makes you more than just a service or a book or a product. It personalizes you, and people want to do business with people. This is why Rise and Record is so important, because with social media, which there was no social media when I got started. So I had to get on planes every day and travel around the world and talk and lug my books and my videos and sell them at the back of the room. I didn't have any other choice. But with social media, you now can sit in your room and you can share your story and you can become a person that people can learn from, they can admire, they can appreciate, they can laugh with, they can cry with, and that's who people want to do business with.
A couple more questions. I could literally sit here all day. We could just talk about all kinds of things. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with scaling, and they get in their own way. And I'd love to hear from you because you've scaled multiple companies. What's the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when it comes to scaling a business, to going beyond the multi-six-figure or seven-figure business?
Probably the biggest one is thinking that you know now what's going to take you there. The reason I attend and hang out with Brandon is because he's striving to be on another level. I'm striving to be on another level. The reason he hangs out with Kevin Harrington and Jeff Hoffman, the way I learned about Brandon was through Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman was a co-founder of Priceline.com, and I was launching an application at that time. So I said to myself, what better way to learn about growing my application than someone who's created one that's changed the world? So that's how I signed up for their mastermind the first time. I'm in probably 3 or 4. I was just in a mastermind last week because I want to be around people who are on the next level. So one of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking that what you know at this level is going to get you to the next level. Find a mentor. Find a circle of people who are vibing at another level, because that's actually what it just comes down to. If we want to make it really simple, your next level of success is a next vibration. It is another vibration above where you're at right now. You have to get on that vibration. Once you get on that vibration, your success will happen. It'll happen, but you've got to get on that vibration. So the only way to get on that vibration is you've got to be in a room with people who are vibing at that level so you can know what that vibe feels like. The reason you set goals is to start vibing on the level of the goal that you're hoping to achieve. And so to make it really simple, you just got to change your vibration.
This is so good. I'll never forget when we were on the phone call together, and then you committed to come to the Explosive Growth Workshop and then Mastermind. We had a connection right away, and I never forgot it. I told Sam later that day, because we were talking about my niece and nephew. You were talking about how you work with a lot of foster kids, and it wasn't about any sale or business at that point. Like, our conversation was just a connection with a human, and I felt at the end of the conversation like, I love you, and I didn't know you, never seen you before, just we had this connection. And ever since, I've loved you. But think about the connections we had through conversation. That's not even business. It's just around commonalities that we have. And so we talk about masterminds. You and I have been in multiple masterminds. There's people in this room that have never even been a part of a mastermind. I would love for you to share briefly, like, you went through the Rise and Record mastermind experience. What was it like? And any advice to anybody that has not made that kind of investment before, any kind of tips for them, because it is scary for some people.
Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, which Whit and Brandon are intricately involved with, he said that a mastermind is a gathering of people that become like-minded to share ideas and share energy. And this mastermind's been beautiful. It's the reason I'm here. If it wasn't a beautiful experience, I wouldn't be here on this stage right now. And when I walked into the room yesterday, I saw people that I saw last year, and I saw people that were in my mastermind when I was in it, and it's another level of connection. And I was telling Steph the other day, because she asked me, what's the most valuable thing I've gotten out of the mastermind? And I said, it's relationships. The relationships, just knowing that there are people throughout the country and throughout the world that I could call up or I can message on Instagram. I follow many of you, and it's just so cool to see what you're doing. We may never talk, but when I see you or when you see me, it's a camaraderie. It's a love energy. It is a love vibe. And it's a whole different experience than going back to your home or going back to your job, because many of you are at the top of the totem pole. And they say it's lonely at the top. It's because no one's vibing with you. So you join a mastermind in order to be at the top with other people and vibe with other people. But there are people I follow on Instagram like Keith. I follow him. It was very cool to see Keith here. Now to know that Keith lives here, I'm like, well, shit, next time I come to Nashville, I'm hitting Keith up. He's a local. You know, Steph and Tommy and Ryan, it's like fantastic. Seeing all these people, and Jonathan, I don't ever talk to Jonathan, but I see him here. He's a super cool person. And it's just relationship. And knowing I can hit up any of these people. Stacy's in Edmonton, Canada. If I go to Edmonton, Canada, I'm hitting Stacy up. You don't get that by staying in your own circle. You don't get that by staying in your own circle. You don't get that by being comfortable. You've got to be willing to expand if that's what you're interested in. I'm going to 9 figures. That's where I'm headed. And that's coming. And so I have to keep stretching outside of my comfort zone. And I have to keep associating and getting on the vibe with other people at that level.
Getting on the vibe, that is so good. My last question for you is, we got a powerful community here. How can we support you, Bryan?
The single greatest way to support me is to remember to breathe and be as loving as you can be. Because we are all connected in this world. And fear is our biggest enemy. And the way you counter fear is with love. Love is the single most powerful healing force in the universe. And if all of you are seeking to be your highest, most loving selves, you're benefiting me automatically, because we're all connected.
Everyone stand up. Let's give Bryan Post a round of applause.